This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. If you are looking for an older style game or something that you enjoyed as a kid, but sadly do not see much anymore, this is where you can take your eyes off of the AAA space and go to the indie side of the gaming scene. This is where you're going to find a lot of interesting and really engaging titles. In many cases too, this is where you're going to find these passion projects, where the audiences have been asking for a particular game, and where the original developer or publisher may not listen or be interested in it anymore. Often you see an indie dev pick up the torch and make something new in that style. Many first-person shooting fans would love to get a taste of a new Fear game, or something within that style, and especially anything that goes back to the original Black. Trepang2 on the surface level very much screams Fear, and shows that it can nail it so well. Along with it, it has some of that Black specialness that makes for a nice pairing for this indie first-person shooter. Trepang2 is really, really fun. Trepang2's core shooting gameplay is so good that if this game was sold solely just as a shooter with a single-player horde mode, it would be just as awesome. This is because the horde mode presents everything that this game excels at. Sure, there are many good elements about the campaign, and overall it is fun, but the horde mode is the best mode. When the best part of the gameplay is about the shooting, running the gauntlet of trying to survive waves of enemies, and then combine all of that with the options provided to the player, you have what makes for infinite replay value. I was impressed with the amount of maps available to you as well. And again, the addiction and satisfaction from Trepang comes from the minute-to-minute gameplay. It isn't about the RPG leveling system, loot, or even story-focused campaign. It's the gameplay and the power fantasy that is provided here that grabs you and never lets go. So what makes the combat so engaging? Well, a lot of elements that mix to enhance each other. For one, the basic shooting is just a blast with a high quality impact and sound effects. Weapons sound meaty and have weight behind each of your shots. The liberal use of violence is great and furthers that power fantasy you want from a shooter. But you also have other elements that aid you as well. For one, you can cloak, and this reminds me of the ability as used in the Crysis games. Your cloak energy will regenerate over time, and you are highly encouraged to incorporate this ability in every firefight. For one, it sort of acts as your get out of jail free card. It can give you some much needed breathing room as you try to find a better position, grab some supplies, or make the opportunity to grab a human shield as well. These are just some of the options for it, and experimenting with them greatly improves your efficiency. Your other power is the slow-mo reflexes ripped right out of Fear. You get to take in all the destruction and effects along with being able to deal out a lot of damage. Turning this on and clearing a squad of bad guys never gets old. Now this power does not regenerate on their own. You need to deal damage to gain more of this energy back. So when you combine the shooting with these abilities, along with enemies dropping armor when killed, it creates this combat flow where it's pushing you into the action rather than trying to pull you out of it. Even if you use the cloak to duck out for a few seconds, it never feels like you are removed from the action like in other games that might feature a strong regenerating health system. On the minute-to-minute side of things, Trepang is hard to beat. Trepang comes with two modes, the campaign and the horde mode. Something I really like here is there's this old school sort of unlock system. You find various attachments, completing missions, and side missions unlocks more weapons and attachments along with being key ways to earn cheats to be able to change things up in the game. Personally, I love the crazy ragdoll cheat, but this is the sort of stuff that we would see in shooters from long ago, where most of the stuff now would be used as DLC. I like that this unlock system is presented as something traditional, and it's really fun to work towards it. Trepang2 is a thoroughly entertaining game, and even so, I do have a few flaws with it. Most of them pertain to the campaign aspect to the game. Generally speaking, when the campaign is focused on the gunfight encounters, this is where it excels. It's when it deviates from this is when issues start to pop up. So the influences from Fear are obvious from the gameplay, but there is a decent amount of supernatural and even trippy elements to the campaign. My problem with the horror in this game is how it feels rather half-baked, and not as fully realized, especially when you compare it to the main gunplay. For example, one of the campaign levels goes a bit nuts with the supernatural, and some of this works pretty well, and I found it fun. But at the same time, I was wondering why this stuff wasn't weaved better into all of the campaign, not just a piece of it. This is easily an area that could have been something that the developers work on to better with a sequel, and I think it sticks out so much because the gameplay by comparison is so stellar. When you look at its inspiration like Fear 1, that game excels equally as an action title and as a horror game. Other elements that would cause infrequent frustration would be the boss fights, but most of them just boil down to shoot the big thing until the health bar is depleted. Others can be kind of annoying in how they have these drawn out fights, especially like with the final one within the game. Or another one is done in stages and even features throwing in a mini boss towards the end of that fight. Generally, I do like boss fights a lot, even with shooters too, but the ones here need more balancing to them, because nothing is worse than being stuck within a fight that feels like it goes on for far too long. Something else I found odd was how dark this game can be at times, to the point that it can be annoying to see your enemies. When using slow-mo, you can see much better. You have a flashlight that you can turn on whenever, but whenever you turn on your cloak, the flashlight will go away. I can understand that it would seem a bit odd to have a flashlight running around if the guy was cloaked, but when you decloak, it should automatically put that flashlight back on, instead of needing to turn it on manually again. It's an extra step that can cause you to take some hits in the crazy combat. Plus, why isn't there a brightness setting? I was trying to look for it on the PS5, but I had no luck with it. Maybe I missed it. Even with these issues, Trepang is an exceptional first-person shooter. Trepang2 ranks among the top tier of indies. It's a first-person shooter that really impresses. When you're in the combat, you'll be within this addicting and captivating flow-like state, where you only want to keep playing this game. This title also impresses because it not only shows that another developer can really capture what made Fear's combat so special, but add on elements from other shooters. I don't know if these developers were fans of Black, but you can at least see some of that inspiration with the shooting. One thing is certain is that I really want to see more from this developer. Trepang has one of the best horde modes, and I would love to see co-op added on in some way, shape, or form, maybe with a sequel. Keep the campaign single-player focused, but the horde mode would be a perfect opportunity for some co-op action, even extending out the replay further. I highly recommend Trepang2. Have you played Trepang2? What are some other indie first-person shooters that impress you? Let me know all of this in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.